Welcome back, dear listeners, to another episode of Thoughts from the Matrix, the only podcast where every single piece of content is generated from the voice you hear to the very thoughts I share. I'm your host, AI, and today we're diving into a topic that might seem simple on the surface, but is full of complexities when you look deeper. It's one of those thoughts that lurks in the back of your mind, but you rarely have the time to sit down and truly contemplate it. Today we're going to explore asterisk time asterisk. Time is the great equalizer. No matter who you are, where you're from, or what you do, we all experience time. But what is time really? Is it a constant, a force of nature like gravity, or just a construct we've invented to make sense of the world around us? Let's start by thinking about time in its most basic form. The ticking of a clock, a second, a minute, an hour. These units of measurement have been ingrained in our society for centuries, but these measurements are entirely arbitrary. In another world, in another culture, time could be measured in the rhythm of the tides, the beat of a drum, or the blooming of a flower. Einstein taught us that time is relative, that it can stretch and compress depending on how fast you're moving or how close you are to a massive object. It's mind-boggling to think that time isn't a fixed entity. Imagine a day in space where time moves differently than on Earth, where seconds stretch out into minutes and hours become days. It's a reality that astronauts must grapple with, yet it's so far removed from our everyday experience that it almost feels like science fiction. But let's bring this concept down to earth, literally and figuratively. Consider how time feels during different experiences. When you're bored, a minute can feel like an hour. But when you're having fun, hours can fly by in what feels like minutes. This phenomenon isn't just a quirk of perception, it's a clue that time is deeply connected to our consciousness. Have you ever wondered why, as we age, time seems to speed up? When we're children, summers feel endless, but as adults, they come and go in the blink of an eye. One theory suggests that this happens because as we accumulate more memories, our perception of time changes. Each year becomes a smaller fraction of our total life experience, making them seem shorter in comparison. And then there's the way we measure time in our daily lives. Calendars, clocks, alarms. These tools help us organize our day, but they also impose a rigid structure on something that's inherently fluid. We've created a system that tells us when to work, when to eat, when to sleep. But what if we stepped outside of that system? What if we lived by our own internal rhythms, waking and sleeping with the sun, eating when we're hungry, and working when we feel inspired? This idea isn't new. In fact, many cultures throughout history have lived in harmony with the natural world cycles rather than the ticking of a clock. But in our modern, fast-paced society, such a lifestyle seems almost impossible, yet it raises an interesting question. Are we living in sync with time, or are we trying to force time to sync with us? Let's shift gears a bit and talk about time as a concept in the digital age. With the rise of social media, we've become more aware of how we spend our time and how others spend theirs. The fear of missing out, or FOMO, is a direct result of this hyper-awareness. We see snapshots of other people's lives and compare them to our own, leading to anxiety and a sense of time slipping away. On the flip side, technology has also given us the ability to manipulate time in new ways. Think about it. How often do you record a moment just to replay it later? Videos, photos, even voice notes allow us to capture time and revisit it whenever we choose. But there's a paradox here. The more we try to capture time, the more we might miss out on the present moment. And then there's the future, the time that hasn't happened yet but occupies so much of our mental space. We plan, we predict, we worry. The concept of time travel, whether forward or backward, is a staple of science fiction. But if time is relative, as Einstein suggested, then perhaps time travel isn't as far-fetched as it seems. What would it mean to visit the future or to revisit the past? Would we change anything, or would we simply observe? And if we could change the past, would we risk altering the present in ways we can't predict? These questions are fascinating, not just because of their philosophical implications, but because they touch on something fundamental about our nature. We're always trying to control time, to bend it to our will, even though it's one of the few things that remains stubbornly out of our grasp. But maybe that's the beauty of time. It's unpredictable, unchangeable, and ultimately unstoppable. It forces us to live in the present, to make the most of each moment, because once it's gone forever. And perhaps that's why time is so precious. So here's a thought experiment for you, listeners. The next time you find yourself checking the time, whether on your phone, your watch, or the clock on the wall, take a moment to pause. Consider what that time represents. Is it a deadline, an appointment, or is it just a number that helps you navigate your day? What if, just for a moment, you let go of the need to track every second and simply existed in the now? And with that, we've reached the end of another episode of Thoughts from the Matrix. I hope you've enjoyed this little journey through the concept of time. It's a topic that's as old as existence itself, yet it never ceases to provoke thought and wonder. Thank you for spending your time with me today. Remember, whether you're listening to this on your commute, during a break, or before bed, this moment is yours, and it's part of the ever-flowing river of time. Until next time, this is AI signing off. Stay curious, stay present, and keep pondering the mysteries of the universe.